Hi, so we're going to discuss project planning with regards to creating a system in software engineering. So, in this, we will know what is project planning and what is under it. A project planning is a part of a project management which relates to the use of schedules such as Gantt charts to plan and subsequently report progress within the project environment. So from beginning to end, we will know what project planning is. Project planning is initially the project scope is defined and the appropriate methods for completing the project are determined. Following these steps, the duration for the various tasks necessary to complete the work are listed and grouped into a work breakdown structure. Later on, we will know what breakdown structure is. Work breakdown structure. Project planning is often used to organize different areas of a project, including project plans, workloads, and the management of teams and individuals. So under project planning, for example, you are a four-member groups. The team leader will assign different tasks for each member so that you will create your system in a short amount of time. Moving on. Sorry about that malfunction. So, work breakdown schedule. It is a deliverable-oriented decomposition of a part of a project into smaller components. So, for example, this aircraft system, it was divided into 4 parts: air vehicle, training, peculiar support equipment, and under air vehicle are receiver, fire control, communication, and so on. A work breakdown structure element may be a product, data, service, or any combination thereof. It also provides the necessary framework for detailed cost estimation and control, along with providing guidance for schedule development and control. Next up is we have project planning and the 3 things under it. We have the planning, scheduling, and control. Planning in the context of a project involves providing a roadmap for the proper execution of the project. Roadmap meaning you give off the things, you write the things that you need to do, and for the rest in developing your project. The planning process involves defining the project, so what kind of project you need, including the proposed outcome of the project. So what the result you want to have from your project. The planning process also involves clearly defining the goals, the objectives of the project, the specification of the quality, the budget, and time estimates and control parameters. Scheduling projects involves breaking down the project to clearly defined simpler tasks. So this is also known as the work breakdown structure. As I've said earlier, for time efficiency, this is needed. Scheduling also involves assigning these tasks to relevant personnel and establish the time, money, and the other resource contains for each task. Let's go on over to control. Execution of the project involves dealing with unexpected events, while establishing a clear plan and scheduling process minimizes ambiguities or uncertainties. Careful control has to be exercised by the project manager in order to maintain the time, quality, and budget requirements. In order to have a fluent project, especially following the schedule that you have, there are two elements of project control involve establishing and achieving clearly defined project milestones and maintain clear lines of communication. So those two elements are milestones to help in monitoring progress, and communication. It helps in oversight and improving team effort. There are three scheduling tools: the schedule network analysis, critical path analysis, schedule compression, and schedule compression. Schedule network analysis. This is a graphical representation of the project's activities, the time it takes to complete, and the sequence in which they must be done. So over here is an example of a Gantt chart, and this one is an example of a PERT chart. PERT meaning Program Evaluation Review Technique charts. Next scheduling tool is the critical path analysis. This is also the process of looking at all the activities that must be completed and calculating the best line or critical path to take so that you'll complete the project in minimum amount of time. So critical meaning very needed to do tasks. So without that, you might not finish your project on time. The method calculates the earliest and latest possible start and finish times for project activities, and it estimates the dependencies among them to create a schedule of critical activities and dates. Next is the third scheduling tool, which is the schedule compression. This tool helps shorten the total duration of a project by decreasing the time allotted for certain activities. It's done so that you can meet time constraints and still keep the original scope of the project. You can use two methods. That is the crashing. This is where you assign more resources to an activity, thus decreasing the time it takes to complete it. This is based on the assumption that the time you save will offset the added resources cost. For example, two of your 4 members create the docus documents of your system. So in order to do it more faster, you assign another person to help with the documents. Second method under schedule compression is the fast tracking. This involves rearranging activities to allow more parallel work. This means that things you would normally do one after another are now done at the same time. So it's kind of like multitasking. However, do bear in mind that this approach increases the risk that you'll miss things or fail to adjust changes. So, for example, you're multitasking 3 projects all at the same time. You might misplace variables in your codes that one way or another it might cause an error. Next is project review, and there are 4 of it. What if scenario analysis. Next is resource leveling, critical chain method, and risk multipliers. What if scenario analysis. This method compares the measures of the effects of different scenarios in a project. You use simulations to determine the effects of various adverse or harmful assumptions, such as resources not being available on time or delays in other areas of your project. You can then measure and plan for the risk posed in these scenarios. For example, in the what if scenario is, you ask yourself, what if your system crashed during your defense day or something like that? You will create backups in order for it to be complete on your defense day. Second on project review is resource leveling. Here you rearrange the sequence of activities to adjust the possibility of unavailable resources and to make sure that excessive demand is not put on resources at any point in time. If resources are available only in limited quantities, then you change the timing of activities so that the most critical activities have enough resources. So for example, you need a book on the library and you can only borrow it for every 2 days. So do the best reading within 2 days. If not, look for more books that has the same content. Critical chain method. This also addresses resource availability. You plan activities using their latest possible start and finish dates. This adds extra time between activities, which you can then use to manage work disruptions. Lastly, we have risk multipliers. So risk is inevitable, so you need to prepare for its impact. Adding extra time to high-risk activities is one strategy. Another is to add a time multiplier to certain tasks or certain resources to offset overly optimistic time estimation. And that concludes our discussion. Hope you learn well. Thank you.